Welcome to I Love My HBCU ? The podcast where we express our undeniable love for HBCUs, but where we are also not afraid to address a few tough questions. So, sit back, learn a little, love a lot, and rep your HBCU.
It's another episode and, of course, another reason to absolutely love your HBCU. I have Ciara with me, Ciara Cheyenne, Ciara Morgan, from Tuskegee, by way of Tuskegee University. Ciara, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Ciara, can we both be honest with the audience? So we both got on realizing that we're both under the weather. So let me tell you, anyone that tells me that Black women don't push through every and anything,
Literally.
both of us are like totally under the weather. You're going to hear it more with me than with Ciara, because Ciara cheated a little bit, guys. And she's looking at me like, what is she about to say? I just started with my tea. So Ciara, you have to show everybody your tea as well.
We have our tea.
We have our tea, and she's been drinking hers like literally all day. Tosin just started on hers. But Ciara, show everyone your teacup again, please, because
Okay.
I love. Look at her teacup, and as you can imagine, she shared with us that her teacup is from her. Is this a great aunt?
A great aunt, yeah.
A great aunt. So
she passed on, and she passed the dishware down to my grandmother, and then my grandmother passed it down to me. So yeah.
Again, my condolences. Whenever any of our family members leave, that is no matter when they leave, it is a sad memory that they're passing on causes us. However, when I look at what they leave us to remember them by, you're always going to mention her name whenever somebody asks you about the teacups. And I also love, because this is where I'm getting to, they don't make things like that anymore. I saw her cup. I saw the translucency of the cup, the flat top, because typically there's a lot of depth in our teacups. Mine is taller. I could talk about aesthetic dishware all day long because I love how different it is. Ciara, thank you for joining us. Ciara, you are a self-taught fashion designer, is my best way of describing you. But I learned recently by noticing your ivory bracelets that fashion runs in your family. Tell me what it is about fashion that, and listen, we're going to talk about you being on season 3 of Making the Cut on Amazon Prime. It's your life. What is it about fashion? Something that some people might see as superficial, something that some people might see as monumental. I'm one of those human beings that if I don't feel good about what I have on, I probably am not going to feel good about myself. What is it about fashion that captured your heart, that made you this person that you are today?
You know, it's so interesting. I love this question because I believe that it's beyond just like fashion. It's really just art as a whole. I think it's something that's innate, that I was just born with. It's not something that I, kind of cultivated on my own. It was something that I discovered that was always there. But when it comes to fashion, I would probably say that it's just the way that it makes me feel. Like I literally can like look at something and it just brings me so much joy to have an appreciation for, color or texture, the way something was constructed or built or just thoughtfully designed. So that goes from fashion when we're talking about clothing all the way down to home decor, even just paintings, like anything. Like I just have an appreciation for art as a whole.
What's your favorite style of art, if you have one?
I would probably say contemporary right now. I'm in like the contemporary. Yeah. I think I'm right there right now in contemporary art. Yeah.
I ask that because anyone who is paying even a little bit of attention into the art world, you'll notice that I hear more and more African American well-known names being brought into conversation in the art world. And the style is very different, which reminds me how subjective art is. And so
Mhm.
I always like to find out from the persons that I'm talking to what their style is.
Mhm.
I go visit museums. I invite my students to visit museums, and sometimes I go there and I'm like, "What is this? I don't understand this."
Mhm.
And I think that's a good thing because of the subjectivity of art. If you were talking to an audience of HBCU students, let's make them freshmen specifically,
Mhm.
and they don't have the same sensibility of art that you do,
Mhm.
what would be your message as an entryway for them to get into? And I want to keep using art and not just fashion, because I love the way you made fashion bigger than just our aesthetic, and you
Mhm.
made it about all of art as a whole. What
Mhm.
would you say to them? What would be your teaser for them to be more interested in that world?
Yeah. I probably would say like treat it as an experiment, a social experiment, and I would say like create two boxes, right? And every time something brings you joy or happiness or peace, I would say place it in one box. And the things that you don't receive joy and peace and happiness, place it in the other box. And the things that bring you the joy, peace, and happiness, I would say to hone in on that because that is your true identity. And just really expound on it because that's what I did. Like as I got older and started to discover more about myself, I was like, okay, these are the things that I like and love, and these are the things I don't like and I don't love. And so when you focus on more of the things you like and love, that brings you more joy, and I think it helps you discover your true like essence and true being. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Listen, did you see me just smiling?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you why it makes perfect sense, and walk with me for a hot second. So before you and I got on, I was having a conversation with our producer Chris, amazing human being by the way, and she and I have an interesting viewpoint on life and the world and why we're here on Earth. Like, it's anyone that listens to us, I you have to hear the context, otherwise you'll be like, what is wrong with those people? And she had said that sometimes life is we're here on earth sometimes, and we kind of have to figure out what we're doing while we're here, but not in that finding your purpose kind of way. But we've got to make use of the time. We've got to fill the time with different things. As you were talking, I'm not kidding, as you were talking, it linked to me. And here's why it linked together for me. You kept on, and I'm closing my eyes because it's a feeling thing for me.
Mhm.
I love the way you described have two boxes. And in one box, put the things in there that you feel. And then you went ahead and said, that's your identity because of the way it makes you feel. And it took me back to the conversation Chris and I were having earlier on. And we're here on this lovely planet that those who believe in God put us here on. We have to figure out how we feel, how we move, how we navigate through it. And it should be filled with all the things that make us feel. I mean, we're going to feel horrible at times. I get that. But it should be populated
Mhm.
more so with the things that make us feel good as
Right.
opposed to the things that don't make us feel good. That's why I was smiling. I was like, wait, hold
Mhm.
on. This connects. While
Mhm.
we're here, that isn't that what purpose is supposed to be? And not looking for the
Yeah.
big P purpose, but the little p, because that's the daily routine that we find ourselves in. I know I took it on a totally
Mhm.
different tangent, but
Yeah.
does it connect for you? Because that connected for me when you were talking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to be truly honest, I found and discovered that identity and purpose through God. God is the one that gave me that identity and purpose because God created me, right? So all the things that I love, that I enjoy, that was all woven into the design of who I am when I was created. And so I think it's just truly about just like finding that. And I found that through God. I found that through God.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
We're coming back because I do want to talk about faith and passion and fashion with you at some point. And I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm going to put Kirk Franklin and T.I. into that conversation as well. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. And if you do, beautiful. If you don't, you're about to find out. But before I do that, I want to throw our amazing rapid fire segment at you.
Okay.
So 67 seconds are going to go on the clock, and I'm going to ask you as many questions, and I'm looking forward to your answers. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Lovely. Describe your HBCU experience in one word.
Amazing.
Amazing. That's one of my favorite words. If your time in college was a song, what would it be?
Ooh, it's so hard. uh, this is so like this is just the first thing that came to mind because I'm going back to my college days. That Passed by Gucci Mane.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Tuskegee's in Alabama, so let me just preface that.
What would you have wanted to tell your college roommate but didn't?
You helped shape me be a better person.
Wow. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful. On a scale of 1 through 10, how good of a student were you?
Ooh, good. I would say like a 5.
I love the listen. I love the honesty. Some people give us infinity. I'm like, really? Is that true?
Yeah.
Shout out your favorite professor or person on your university campus, then or now, and what do they do or did?
Professor Crump. You know what? He told me one time that I was a wannabe Atlanta housewife. And I was so confused on why he said that. And he used to make comments towards me that would quite honestly offend me, but at the same time, he gave me a lot of tough love. So, shout out to him.
So listen, that wrapped up the Rapid 67, and I'm coming back to that in a hot second. But before I come back to that, the question I wanted to end with, it's 2026. What word do you want to not encapsulate your year, but what word do you want to drive your year?
For 2026?
Yes.
I would say intentionality. Be intentional.
Intentionality. I love that. I absolutely love that. Now I'm coming back to Professor Crump because listen, I've never. Can you give us more?
His real name is Crumbly.
Crumbly. Okay.
Yeah, but I was making a joke. But
What did he teach? Was he one of your business professors?
He was one of my business professors. So I did have him, and now I'm like, is it business management? No, not business management. I'm trying to remember the class, but it was definitely in business. Okay. And we had to do a lot of presentations, so I kind of hated the class because it was centered around like business plans and all these things. But like back then, I didn't even know I was technically going to own a business. I kind of just started studying business. And so the class much helped me get to where I am today because it kind of instilled a lot of like presentation skills in me. And like I said, he had a lot of tough love for me, but he taught me how to like present myself well. And he would tell me like, no one cares how you feel today. Like just show up and show out. So that helped me like in the workforce as well, just working in corporate as well in the fashion industry.
I appreciate that. As you were talking, I was thinking of all the tough professors out there, tough in quotes. I have found in my experience that most of the tough professors care deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why they use the approach of tough love is because they want you to be able to navigate in moments where they won't be there to help you. Like they really want you to be able to navigate. And I know some people need warm love or soft love. And I'm sure that also lands well for a lot of people in teaching them the life lessons they need. But I have a very, very keen appreciation for tough love, as long as it's not abusive. There's a difference between abusive love and tough love. As
Right.
long as it's not abusive, I do have an appreciation for tough love. So I love the way you broke down that was an inside joke between the two of you, but I would
Mm-hmm.
love to know from him what he means by you are a wannabe, or you were a wannabe Atlanta a housewife. That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. You are born and raised in Watts, California, and you currently reside in Los Angeles, but you found yourself in Alabama. There are, I know there aren't that many HBCUs in on the West Coast, if any, actually.
There's
Um,
actually not. There's
there's
no
not.
HBCs on the West Coast. They're actually they're building their first one.
There we go.
I did read an article about that about a year ago, so I'm not sure the progress on that, but we do not have any historically black colleges here in the West.
That's what I say that, and then someone always corrects me, and I'm like, my research tells me there is no
No,
HBCU,
we
not
don't.
traditionally anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And even the one that you're mentioning, I believe it's going to be an offshoot from an existing campus, almost like a
Mm-hmm.
satellite, and not
Mm-hmm.
because you can't be historically HBCU and being built in 2024 or 2025. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
um how did we get to Alabama? How did we pick Tuskegee? I mean, Tuskegee's an amazing institution, but you had
Yeah.
options. How
Right.
did we pick Tuskegee? Give us your college selection journey.
Okay, so to be completely honest, I never had any intent on attending at HBC. My whole goal was to go to fashion school, and I had my mindset on attending the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising here in downtown LA. And I remember going to meet with the counselor at the FITM Fashion School, and my mom just pulls out this big stack of papers. And I'm like, what is that? And she pulls it out of her purse in the middle of the meeting, and she's like, well, I did research and statistically proven only this percent of people graduate with an AA, and they go on only making less than 50K salary a year, and they don't have legitimate careers and all this kind of stuff. So she starts laying out all these facts that she Googled, and I just started crying. And I said, well, it looks like you have your mind made up on where I'm going. And the next thing I know, she tells me to start applying for four-year universities. And that included HBCs. And I got accepted into maybe five or so. And I remember like my top choices were Hampton and Howard. I didn't get accepted into Howard. I got accepted into Hampton and also Tuskegee. And it kind of just boiled down to what school gave me the most money for scholarship, and it was Tuskegee University. And then on top of that, um, a guy that I was dating at the time in high school, he actually went to prom with me in my high school prom. He attended Tuskegee and he was going into his second year. And so he kind of convinced my mom that it was an amazing school because he wanted me to come there with him. And I wasn't sold on it, but my mom was like, yeah, it's a great school. It's a great school. And I was like, all right. And yeah, I got accepted. I got a scholarship. Next thing I know, I packed my bags. My mom flew to Atlanta with me. We drove up the 85. We got there. I seen like a cow crossing the road, and she said bye. And then she drove off and left me. And that's how it happened.
You say this so easily. You realize how funny that is when you said
And
that?
that's how it happened.
That is literally how that happened. That
I'd
is
never visit the
hilarious.
school. I knew nothing about Tuskegee whatsoever.
But you know what I love about hearing your college selection journey, and anyone who does a quick rewind to the rapid fire, you do describe your time at Tuskegee as amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it did not seem like it was your choice to start off with, to be
Mm-hmm.
extremely honest.
Right.
You clearly don't regret it. That's number one. You
No.
clearly don't regret it. Tell me what was amazing about Tuskegee, but I also then want to follow up with, do you think it would have been different if you had just gone to fashion school? Where do you think you would be now if you had just gone to FIDM as opposed to going to Tuskegee? So first of all, why was Tuskegee so amazing, especially since it wasn't your first choice? Why
Mm-hmm.
was Tuskegee so amazing?
I would say amazing from the sense of the experience as a whole. Like I feel that it contributed to who I am today. And I believe strongly that everything happens for a reason and a purpose. And so everything works together for the good for me. And although like Tuskegee was not my choice, when I arrived there, I had no idea on what I was getting myself into. And then once I started to, go through my freshman year, my sophomore year, my junior year, my senior year, um, I just realized like Tuskegee is a part of my story. Like it is a part of my personal story and who I am. And what I love about Tuskegee is it helped me like back to going to identity and like just discovering myself. It helped me identify things about myself that I never knew about myself. And I think that that's really important. And I'm all for education. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you don't need to go to college. You don't need to go to college. College helped shape me. It helped shape me. It helped put me through the fire, through the rains. Like it literally helped shape me and who I am today to become a person who's able to like persevere through anything.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Do you think you would be further? No, that's not fair. Where do you think you would be a little differently if you had just gone to FIDM as opposed to
Hmm.
going to your HBCU?
I honestly don't know where I would be if I went to FITM. And what's funny is when I graduated from Tuskegee and I moved back to LA, I still pursued to go to fashion school because that was the agreement me and my mother made. She said, okay, like if you graduate from a 4 year and get a degree, I'll allow you to go to fashion school after. So when I came back, I actually did apply to FITM. I got accepted into the school, and I could not afford the tuition. It was too much. I think I was $14,000 short of the semester. And I remember classes were getting ready to start like that Tuesday, and I couldn't come up with the last 14,000. And I prayed and I said, God, like if this is meant to be, then allow it to be. And I didn't come up with the money in time. And I said, well, that means it's not meant to be. Because if it was, then, I would be there. And so what's so interesting is when that happened, I was like, okay, I'm still going to pursue my dreams to become a fashion designer. And I did just that.
Tell us the rest of it, because I know that I know making the cut is in that story. I know having your own ready to wear brand is in that story. So
Hmm.
tell us the rest of the story now.
Yeah. So um, I'm I'm the type of person like I really love like education. Like I'm all about like self-help. Like I read a lot of books, I go to a lot of seminars, like I'm in like different groups and communities and things like that. So like I'm always like a student. Like I'm always learning, I'm always wanting to know more and more and more and learn things about different subjects, right? And so when I was like, okay, if I'm not going to fashion school, like I still need to learn the basics. And so I would just go to Barnes and Nobles and like order books on fashion and read. And I would go to YouTube University and like look up different videos. And so, quite interesting, I went to FITM's website and I looked up the major that I wanted to study, which was visual merchandising, right? And I looked at the curriculum that they were studying for that semester. And it literally told me the topics each week that they were discussing, and it told me the books that they were reading. And so I ordered those books and I created my own curriculum basically. And I was like, okay, this week they're studying this, and so like I should be able to find information on this, and I did just that. So it was kind of like I created my own university myself to learn like what are the basics of becoming a fashion designer. Like what do I need to know about like pattern making, grading, marking, designing, sewing, all of those things. And so that's kind of how I became a self-taught designer, because I taught myself the things by looking at the curriculum that fashion schools are teaching.
So, Ciara, I write a lot when
Hmm.
people are talking or when I'm having these conversations with people on the podcast. And I just wrote, when you want something bad enough, you study it. And there are different definitions of self taught. Typically, when somebody tells us that they're self taught, I have to guess what they mean by that.
Hmm.
And I don't visualize the structure.
Hmm.
I pray to God
Hmm.
that anyone hearing the sound of my voice, when this podcast drops and you're
Hmm.
hearing the sound of my voice, if you happen to have fast forwarded and you get to this point, I need you to
Hmm.
rewind for about 2 minutes. Just rewind right now for about 2 minutes, because I
Hmm.
want you to hear how Ciara broke down what she did. That's impressive. And I've
Hmm.
never heard anyone break it down that way. you literally created your own self-study curriculum
Mhm.
for the exact degree that everybody else was paying. I don't You said you were short $14,000. If you're
Mhm.
short $14,000, I don't want to imagine how much the total amount was if you're
Mhm.
short 14,000.
Mhm.
That's what everybody else was paying for, and you quite literally guided yourself through. That is so,
Mhm.
Ciara, that's a master class. You know that,
Mhm.
right? Like what you
Right.
just did is a master class in how to be self-taught in a subject that matters to you.
Mhm.
I hope enough students are hearing you. I know I run into a lot of students that say this. I want to think you do too, who always say, I don't know how. They want
Mhm.
something, and the only response they've got is, well, I don't know what to do and I don't know how.
Mhm.
And you've just given a blueprint of how you can actually break into something that you want to do. So kudos
Mhm.
you. I'm stealing that for myself as well. Sorry, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, well, actually, when I had prayed that prayer, like, okay, God, if this is something that is gonna happen, let it happen. God actually had confirmed to me. He said, you know, you think that you need to go this way, A, B, C, D, what the rest of the world is doing, but He told me, I'm taking you there to the destination, but my way. And when He told me that He was taking me His way, I said, okay, well then that means that it's not gonna look the way that everybody's telling me I need to go. Um, and so yes, if anybody is listening to this, like, and I will tell you this, I've worked in corporate in fashion companies as a designer and a product developer, and I obtained more information than the people who went to fashion school. Like, I've been told by CEOs, I've been told by supervisors, I've been told by all of these people in the company, in the corporation, like, go to Ciara, she knows the answer. And I've been in a company before where I'm the only person that didn't have a fashion design degree. By the grace of God, like, He got me through the door, and everyone there obtained a fashion design degree. So, like I said, I'm all for education, but at the end of the day, especially when it comes to like a craft and a skill, um, it's innate. It's something that, and if you really truly desire something and you go after it, you can figure it out.
So Ciara, you heard yourself say this not too long ago, that you heard some people say, you don't need college for X, Y, and Z. I don't know if you hear it, that you are the perfect example of the yes, like both sides of the argument, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
The first side of the argument was that college, going and getting your undergrad at Tuskegee University actually helped embolden you into who you are and helped make you into who you are
Mhm.
today. But then there's this other side of the argument,
Mhm.
when it came specifically to your craft and fashion merchandising and fashion design, that you wanted to go that route. It's not that you
Mhm.
did not want to. You wanted to go that route, but found out that you had to go a different route to getting to where you want to get to, and it was
Mhm.
not college. And therein lies for Tosin the definition of education. Education
Mhm.
does not have to equate to college. It does equate, however, to you getting the knowledge behind what it is you need to get to the step B, C, D, or E of what it is that you're looking for. I love that you are
Mhm.
embodying both sides of the
Mhm.
argument that people make as to, do I need a college degree? Do I not need a college degree? I really think it depends if we're going to use you as a case study.
Mhm.
And in your case study, the answer is yes to both,
Mhm.
which is very,
Mhm.
very interesting, but it's yes to both.
Mhm.
I've heard you talk about God a lot. Even in your bio, you mentioned how important faith is to you. And if you recall, I said I was going to bring up Kirk Franklin and Ti.
Mhm.
First of all, do you know why I'm referencing Kirk Franklin and Ti?
So I have an idea you're talking about the men's table conversation he has, but I
Yes.
have not watched that episode. I saw the episode before. I have not got to that one yet, but
Okay.
I saw a
Okay.
clip surface on the internet, and so yeah, I'm interested to know like what was said.
Okay, so I have not watched the whole, but I've watched a pretty decent chunk of that particular episode.
Mhm.
And I also think kudos to Kirk Franklin for not being so a lot of people's commentary to me was very salacious because
Mhm.
Ti does make statements about not necessarily believing in the church, even
Mhm.
though he does believe in God and he has
Mhm.
a strong spiritual relationship with God. But he
Mhm.
calls, and I'm quoting now, this is not Tosin speaking, this is Ti saying this from the
Mhm.
episode that I watched. He sees church as a business and a show. Those are his words, a business
Mhm.
and a show. And then he describes what he means by that.
Mhm.
I hope this isn't unfair. I hope
Mhm.
this, yeah, I hope this isn't unfair for me to ask. I don't want your opinion of what Ti is saying because you've been honest in saying you have not watched the episode. So
Mhm.
I think it's unfair to ask you, hey, what do you think about this? But I
Mhm.
do want your thoughts as
Mhm.
somebody who is, you've mentioned God quite a bit on even in our conversation today, and faith is something that matters to you a lot. I do want your thoughts on church. I do,
Mhm.
especially the black church. And
Mhm.
I know the black church is not a monogamy. Sorry, it's not monogam. It's not. Words are failing me because I'm under the weather today. My apologies.
Mhm.
But it's not a uniform being. That's what I'm looking for.
Mhm. Yeah.
It is diversified. You've got your different denominations. I'm very, very clear on that. But
Mhm.
typically when we say the black church, many of us have a visual in our minds of what it is that we're referring to with regards to different similarities. What's your take
Mhm.
on the Black church and how we as congregants relate to church?
Mhm. Well, I think that you're probably asking from the perspective of like the charismatic movement, or is that what you're saying as far as like the black church or
No. I'm speaking from the I actually want to call it traditional movements more so than
Mhm.
charismatic, and that is you are raised in the church, you are
Mhm.
told to go to church every single
Mhm.
day. There is a relationship that you are supposed to have with your church community.
Mhm.
And in black communities, it is ingrained. And
Mhm.
when we now add mega churches to that
Mhm.
definition, it's ingrained in the sense that we uphold our pastors in certain
Mhm.
ways. And
Mhm.
again, I'm going to keep repeating this. I'm not saying this does not happen in other races of churches and so on and so forth. I'm only speaking of what I know of. There is
Mhm.
a deep relationship, a very lively filled relationship that
Mhm.
is encouraged. And I'm saying all of these things positively, I'm actually not saying them negatively. That you see within churches and especially
Mhm.
black churches. But then I hear people like Ti, and he's not the only one, who
Mhm.
don't necessarily see the church
Mhm.
being the perfect conduit for your
Mhm.
spirituality, and they
Right. Okay.
separate those two.
Got it. Got it.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I will say from Ti's comment about that, the thing is, if you read the Bible, which most people don't read the Bible, they don't know God's word. Um, Even if you read in Revelations, like Paul talks about, there are 7 types of churches. There's 7 types, and he writes letters to the churches, and they were, I would say, conducting themselves in different manners. Okay. Now, we all know that there are churches that deceive people, who are false, who are operating in self, that are not led by the Holy Spirit whatsoever. But that does not give a right to put all churches into one category, I would say. And quite frankly, the church is actually us. It's not a physical building. So when the word talks about the church, we are the church. Like, whether he knows it or not, he is the church. Like, it's not an actual just a building where you come in and sit down and pray. That's not what the Bible says. Like, the church is the people of God. The body of Christ is the church. And so yes, I grew up in church my whole life. Um And yes, I was taught certain things, but it wasn't until I actually got to Tuskegee that I developed a personal relationship with God myself. I started to go to chapel on campus. I actually had lived in Auburn my second semester of sophomore all the way to my senior year of college at Tuskegee, and I started going to a Baptist church in Auburn, Alabama. And I used to go to church by myself. And yes, like I was rooted and I had an upbringing in the church that never left me. And actually, that's why the word says to train up a child in the way they should go, and they shall not depart from their faith. So me having that foundation led me to seek God on my own. And so it was no longer attached to my mother, my grandmother, the people who took me to church when I grew up, but I started to experience God for myself. And he started to reveal himself to me. And that's when I started to develop a personal relationship. And so when it comes to like the topic of the church, I think Ti, like I said, I think a lot of people who speak on these things don't read the Bible, because God tells us that we are supposed to be in koinonia, which is fellowship and community with our fellow body of Christ. You know, we're all members of the body of Christ. So we are supposed to go to church. That is something that is required of us. And I know people choose to opt out, but it's kind of hard if you say you believe in God, but then like you don't believe in his word, because his word tells us that we're supposed to be in koinonia. So, for me, church is everything. I serve at my church. I work in production at my church, so I'm the person like behind the camera upstairs in the camera room, with the audio people and the videographers and all that, doing audio, and I put the scriptures up on the screen for people and the lyrics to the worship songs. So I've been serving in church since 2018. I think it was 2018, 2017, maybe 2017. I actually helped at my old church open our our second campus. So I'm heavily like involved in the church. And I know the impact that it has had on my faith. Just having that support, having that, a family,
Mm,
basically a
mm.
family of people. When I need prayer, I can go to people, I can be in community, I can be vulnerable, I can share my shortcomings with people, somebody to relate to, and just honestly having someone that has led me spiritually, that has allowed me to start reading the word for myself. I think it's like important to be under, like whether it be a head pastor or a prophet who guides you to seek the Lord on your own. But I think the issue is that people don't have personal relationships with God. It's a byproduct of people who introduce them to God, and they stay in that relationship based on someone introducing them and not having that personal connection.
So I appreciate everything you just said. I appreciate especially your reference to, I do not know the Latin word, so I simply just say that church is supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be us being in community. That's what I call it.
Mm-hmm.
But you used the Latin. I think it's Latin or Hebrew equivalent to that. So I appreciated hearing that, because I believe that even if one were not religious, being in community and being in spaces where you feel supported, being in spaces where you feel that you are safe in going to people when things may not necessarily be copacetic for you is very, very important. So I appreciated hearing
Mm-hmm.
you say that. I want to ask you, because I think there are always two sides to this. When I speak to my students who I think there's a statistic, and I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm not going to quote it, but there is a statistic globally in the West, so not globally, but in the West, that more and more young people are opting out
Mm-hmm.
of being in community in religious ways. So it's not that
Mm-hmm.
they're not being in community, but the religious doctrine is no longer what they want to abide by. I
Mm-hmm.
want your take on what that means when you hear that, and
Mm-hmm.
whether or not you believe we have great examples that would encourage people to want to be in community in religious ways. Because I
Mm-hmm.
personally think that might be part of the issue, because you talked
Mm-hmm.
about seeing good examples. You called them prophets, you called them leaders, whatever terminology people want to use. Seeing good examples that allow you to go and develop your own personal relationship, not what that person is telling you their relationship is with their God. What is your
Mhm.
take on that? That statistic that younger and younger people are
Mhm.
opting out of that relationship.
Mhm. I think it's like two sides to the coin. Because I believe there's a revival going on right now. So where I live, I see a lot of young people on fire for God. And in community and coming to church. But then I do see a lot of people who are in this like new age, what we call new age, where they like conjure up their own religion based on their wants, basically, you can
Yes.
say. And so like a lot of people, they're like, oh, I believe in God, but it's like they want to take like bits and pieces and like put it,
Pieces.
like build their own God is basically what they're doing.
Mm.
And I think that that's because we live in a generation where it's all about self. It's all about self. It's all about like my wants, my needs. And it kind of just goes back to like the topic of purpose of like, first of all, like we didn't create ourselves. So I can't really give myself purpose because I didn't create myself. So I have to go to the maker. It's like, if you take this laptop here that was made by Apple, right? And I never read the manual or never did any research on like how to use it or go through the steps. You know how you set up
Yes.
your MacBook, and I go, I'm just gonna create my own way of how the computer works. Well, it's not gonna work because you didn't create it. You get what I'm saying? So
Yes.
I can't make my own shortcuts on the keyboard because that's not how it was built. It's not how it was manufactured. And so I think that we live in a microwave fast generation of like people just want results like fast. And so that's why we have like, I could go on and on, but there's just so many different like avenues that people are taking that is removing the true and living God from everything. I would just say that. So I want to make sure I answer your question though. Sorry.
You did. You did.
Okay.
You did. You
Okay.
at least my take on your response was that you're seeing both. You're
Mhm.
definitely seeing a revival where there are people in the younger generations that are absolutely gravitating towards finding inner purpose that isn't just microwaved and created by themselves based on their
Mhm.
wants and needs. But then
Mhm.
you also acquiesce that you see those who are doing the opposite as
Mhm.
well. I pray for all of us because I
Mhm.
do think that we are in a difficult world.
Mhm.
um I know life does not have to be difficult, but I do
Mhm.
believe that we are in a difficult world. That world, this earth, that we are not all, we're not meant to be. When I say we're not meant to be here, we're not. This is not meant to be home. That's what I mean when I say we're not meant to be
Mhm.
here. My apologies.
Mhm.
Navigating it is not always going to be the easiest thing.
Mhm.
And I've said this before, I'll say this here. Those who navigate it without some really strong spiritual connection, kudos to you because you're the brave ones. I don't see how you're doing it. Like I
And
don't.
listen, I was just having this conversation with a cousin, and I said, if I didn't have Jesus in my life, I would literally be in prison
Ouch.
or not alive
Yeah.
because I would have lost my literal mind.
Mind. Yeah.
Like the peace that God gives me and the things that I have overcome like is nothing but God.
Oh
Because
God.
if I didn't have that faith, like I'm telling you, I would be literally on the streets lost somewhere. Like literally lost. And going back to what you just asked, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Dr. Daff show. But I actually just did an episode. They had asked me to come on the show and we had a conversation. It was 25 Christians and 25 atheists.
Mm.
So if you are interested in going to listen to that conversation, it's on YouTube, Dr. Daff, DAF. I'm on there, and it's a very, very, very interesting conversation. 25 Christians and 25 atheists, to see both perspectives in, like, if you want to check that out.
I am going to check it out, not just because
Okay.
I have a friend who is atheist.
Okay.
I'm not going to put his name out there. I don't think he'd care, but I have a friend who is atheist, and we have our conversations constantly, and he's the one that I say, I don't know how you're winging life. Like, I say that
Mm-hmm.
to him, like, I don't. And he says, Tosin, that makes you weak. And I said, that's fine. Let me be weak all day long. This construct called Earth is a challenge.
It is.
And those who are, again, and I say this to him all the time, I consider you brave, because
Mm-hmm.
I would not be winging this without something to fall back on. But you
Right.
are, and good for you. So I am. I say all of this to say that you're talking to the right person. It's not
Mm-hmm.
if I want to check it out. I am going to check it out.
Okay.
Because I'm now curious to hear what 25 people, 25 and 25, say on each opposing side,
Mm-hmm.
with regards to this conversation on faith. I think a lot of us shy away from the conversation on faith, and for you to be on a podcast that's I Love My HBCU question mark, I think it is beautiful, actually, for us to have a conversation that deals with faith on this, because I personally believe, I am African, and I personally believe that when you look at the trajectory of Black people all over the world, not just in the
Mm-hmm.
United States of America, our faith journey is intricately tied to who we are as people, with regards to the issues that we decide to take on, with regards to the purpose driven passions that we decide to take on, and so on and so forth. So I
Mm-hmm.
personally feel that it is intertwined, and I appreciate you for being open enough to she put, by the way, guys, if you ever get to read Ciara's bio, she puts it there boldly that this is who she is. So it was
Mm-hmm.
going to be impossible for us not to have a conversation about
Impossible.
faith. Impossible. Impossible. But
Yeah.
Ciara, you've dropped a nugget for us that I'm going to definitely put at the end of our episode, and that is the Dr. Daff episode. However, is there anything else that when you agreed to have this conversation, you absolutely wanted to touch on that I was not able to bring up? Please bless our audience with it before we go.
Um, I would just say, as a whole, like, yeah, I'm just very, 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 very happy that I went to Tuskegee University.
I love it. I love
Like,
it.
I brag about my school all the time. It's so funny because my friend, she has like this ongoing joke. She's just like, can you go a day without talking about Tuskegee? And I'm like, not really. She's like, you just have to tell everybody you went there. And I'm like, I do, because it was just like it was an amazing experience. And I feel like, and I'm not saying everything was ups, because there were some downs. Okay. I think I almost got kicked out of school. But that's beside the point. I, as a whole, like, it literally helped shape who I am. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. So if anyone's watching this who have children who they're, want to send to college, send them to Tuskegee.
Send them to Tuskegee. The other thing I got from Ciara's takeaway, the last few things that she just said, I love, and I implore every HBCU grad, your experience is going to be multifaceted. Like Ciara said, she almost got kicked out, but that's a story for another day. Your experience is going to be multifaceted, but it makes you who you are. If I can have a conversation with a friend who I've known for years, and there isn't a day that goes by that she doesn't talk about her having gone to Harvard University, then in the same breath,
Mhm.
Ciara should be able to talk about the fact that she went to Tuskegee University every single day. Tosin should be able to talk about that she went to Harvard University. Whatever HBCUs we went to, I
Mhm.
agree with you, Ciara. So to your
Mhm.
friend, tell her that Tosin said, why not talk about Tuskegee and brag on Tuskegee every single day?
TU.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Listen, Ciara, thank you so much for being my guest on I Love My HBCU question mark. And to those tuning in, I hope you go back and check out some of the gems that Ciara dropped. I think she's an extremely sweet human being. It's impossible for you.
Oh, thank you.
You absolutely, you are, my words are failing me. This is what happens when I'm under the weather. My words fail me. You are undeterred about your faith. I love that about you. You are undeterred about your faith. So it is impossible for you to watch this episode and not go ahead and hit like, not because of me, but because of Ciara Morgan, of course. And to everybody else, see you next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Tosin.
Thank you. All right.
You've been listening to I Love My HBCU ? Let's keep the conversation going as we share our stories and encourage more practical support of HBCUs, whilst of course holding each other accountable. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for the latest episodes. Until next time, love and lift your HBCU.